our facilitator. And if you turn on your comments, you can always check with Donna if you're having any audiovisual problems or any problems with the link, and she will try to help you. My name is Jan Bottiglieri. I'm waving in case you can't tell who's talking. For those of you who, oh, now everybody waves. How are they going to know who's me? I'm Jan Bottiglieri. I'm one of the editors of Rhino, and I just want to welcome everyone. I want to welcome my fellow editors. I want to welcome our treasured readers. We are so excited. We have readers literally coming in from everywhere in the world for us today. And I very much want to welcome you, our attendees, for making time in your day for poetry. It's such an important thing to do, and we appreciate you very much. So thank you for being here. I wanted to say that the issue is coming very soon. It's just about at the printer. It really is happening. And we are terrifically excited for everyone to see it. And today you'll be getting a preview of a few of the poems that are in it. This reading is really a celebration, not only of this year's issue, which is just full of some gorgeous poetry, but of Rhino's core commitment to poetry community, to supporting our readers, to honoring our contributors and those who read Rhino. We're all about community, and having a reading like this where we can join from anywhere in the world and welcome each other is really important to that. So thank you very much. And remember, we need you, not only to contribute to Rhino, but to support our poets, to support each other. We're an independent journal. We have no, no university overhead. We're all volunteers. We subsist not only on very generous grants from arts organizations, but from very generous contributions of people like you. And by contribution, I don't only mean financial donations, although they are accepted and with gratitude, but I mean just what you're doing right now, showing up for a reading, committing to a couple hours of being poets and supporting poetry in the world. We need you and we thank you. I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement statement. We are virtually gathered in Evanston, Illinois, and in the greater Chicago area. The land we're on belongs to and was stolen from the Council of Three Fires, the Odawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe nations. Many other tribes called this land home, among them the Peoria, the Miamia, the Kiakapu, the Oceti-Sakowin, and the Ho-Chink. Members of these communities contribute to the life of this city and to the life of poetry. So I'd like to, without further ado, introduce our first reader. Before I do so, I just want to make sure everyone notes, Donna has just posted Kiyoko's bio in the chat. Instead of going through long bios here, we'll post them in the chat. Please familiarize yourself with the readers, and so you can get more of their work if you love it as they read it. And feel free to use the chat to make comments of support. Let us know how you're feeling about the poems you hear. Our first reader today, welcome Kiyoko Reidy.
Hey y'all. Okay, so I'm assuming I can get this pulled up. Yeah, okay, so I have two poems. The first one is a super new one, so bear with me. It's called A Nice Long Time. It has been a nice long time since I wished for catastrophe, a singular disaster, a point of gravity, something to turn toward without guilt. It feels arrogant to name the era we are living in, since we don't know how it ends. At the eye doctor, she holds lenses in front of my eyes, one at a time. Is option one better or option two? What does she mean by better? What if I look into the binocular-shaped machine and see the hot air balloon, twist the knob, and suddenly everything, everywhere, comes into focus? No one could bear that. My heart in my fist. I flick my wrist and it unfolds like a fan, but does little in this heat. Once we made a list of all the people we'd invite to our wedding. Some things are only cruel in retrospect. From another room, I hear you singing, then the guitar's plaintive echo. There's a problem. Our apartment is only one room, so where have you gone? Who has run off with your throat? I can only listen to instrumental versions of my favorite songs. What lyrics are not at least a little about love? I am exhausted by what I cannot say, or I am exhausted by what I cannot say. The human eye is drawn to movement. We are forced to watch what is leaving us. The ending is the only part anyone remembers. Cool. It's nice to see all of you guys do the little clapping motion. Very affirming. Thank you. Okay, cool. And then this is the one from Rhino. I figured I'd read it second since we can hope that that one at least doesn't suck. Okay, black holes and their feeding habits. After polarized photos of the black hole at the center of the M87 galaxy. When black holes pull in other bodies, space junk, small planets, products of evolution, it's called feeding. Impossible vortex of gravity made human, made hungry. I learned this on the Cumberland Plateau in a house rented for the weekend. Wood walls are pocked with bullet holes and the river is so low it's become something else. Mud wash, silt thick. I push a stick 3 feet into the riverbed and it keeps sinking. I want to step off the bank into muck, ankle deep, knees, hips. When something is sucked into the black hole, it compresses horizontally and elongates vertically. The process is called spaghettification. If the most powerful forces we know can't maintain some dignity, what chance is there for the rest of us? I avoid tools that possess devastating power, telescopes, guns. I've never even held a gun. I came closest at a party, a friend's house tucked into the hazy base of the Appalachians. 2 men found a rifle in a closet after hours of drinking themselves loose. In the kitchen, they played at battle, miming the kickback, the body's caves, a clean kill. I couldn't look away. The gun's dark eye swiveled around the room, settling at my chest. The abyss stared back. I've been told if there's a gun in a poem, it needs to go off. Bang, one man said. Bang, bang. The point at which nothing can escape the gravitational force of the black hole is called the event horizon. Past the horizon, nothing returns. Light, matter, knowledge. The black eye spun away. I watched until the gun was abandoned, the men bored with the muzzle in their mouths, the adrenaline high fizzing out like a bad firework. What happens when tragedy passes us by? Their bodies twisted beneath the kitchen's single bulb, the pull of each man warping the light towards his mouth, imagined bullet tunneling the skull. The house where I stood with the rifle's O pressed into my sternum burned years later in a total lost fire. Except, freed by flame, they found bullets in the ruins. On Earth, something is always there, blanketed in ash. The newest images, polarized, taken with a global web of telescopes, reveal the swirl of the electromagnetic field, a sun in inverse, red and yellow spiraling into the singularity, uncertain bullseye, slack mouth of oblivion. Thanks, y'all, and thanks, Rhino.
Thank you so much, Kiyoko. Such a powerful and incredibly timely reading to open with. In case you don't know me, I'm Angela Narciso Torres, one of the editors, and it's my honor now to introduce our next reader, Mayksha Tolbert, who's joining us from the Tin House Workshop. Again, please check out the reader bios in the chat and feel free to use the chat to comment, praise, and respond to the readings as you're so inclined. We love hearing from you. But for now, please, let's all give a warm welcome to Mayksha Tolbert.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I'll just say briefly a physical description that I'm a Black femme with a septum piercing in a very standard college dorm room with a twin-size bed behind me. I'm going to read 2 poems, and I'll start with the poem that's in Rhino, which is set at the Great Dismal Swamp, which is at the bottom of Virginia. So this poem is called So Dismal, I Almost Thought I Could Fly. A yellow clearing, black defiant water dreams of flying over woods and rivers, deep here brush, here juniper, stone and fire burns, still here a place from which to slip away. Every night she slip home, here shoebox, light in lithic red, here boy who of white knows only clouds, of post-rain, where herons wait for sometimes nothing. The posts rot in place into some other life, precious. Here smoke tunnels nowhere. Here night slips home. Here yellow haze. Here hinterlands. Here yellow nurses. All the ghosts wear clothes of this color. Oh, evil days. Here some other light that I then thought I would not have left the place to go to heaven. And that poem is, thank you all. That poem takes place at the bottom of Virginia, and I will read a newer poem that I've been working on that is really in central Virginia and is one of the many conversations that I try to have between UVA and Monticello. So thank you for having me here, and I'll end with a poem called Sketch Where We Parallel Play. He's interesting to keep around, but it's more me than him. I'm the one who asks the hard questions. All he does is sit there sketching. All he does is sit there at his table sketching work he'll never do. I hate his curiosity. I hate and love how his clothes still seem too small for him. He draws, I think about the distance between us, how we both take to pulleys, how we both cling to the wrong things for too long and don the same red coats. In these tenses, I see how we're the same. But you know, sometimes I laugh at how he talks about hope. One night I trace and retrace his outline until I can draw those serpentine walls in my sleep. More me, more him. He's interesting enough to keep around. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayksha, for that gorgeous reading. Really touched me, and I'm sure everyone here. I'd like to now introduce our third reader, Mariam Gomaa. Welcome to Rhino, and
thank you guys so much. I have two poems I'll read, and I'll start with the one that's coming out in this issue, which might be my favorite poem I've written in a while. So I'm excited to share it with you guys. It's called Everything Will Be So Good So Soon. I learned to like the foods allowed to us by government gods and revised my tastes so not to hunger for the rest of America's provisions. You cannot be disappointed by that which you never long for. And truth be told, I never asked to be here, on this spackle of earth where words are coarse salt dusting the shelves of grocery stores. It never occurred to me to be ashamed of need, of the heat turned off in dead winter, wielded away with layers of quilted jackets indoors, and delight at the sight of our breath in clouds and the chance to sleep, all five of us, side by side in one room, imbricated bodies like curved ladles, our creature selves unlearned in scarcity, having never tasted saffron, nor touched silk, nor seen the seismic gap between this life and the next. Thank you, guys. My next poem is one I'm working on. It's not, I don't know if it's exactly where I want it to be, but I'm excited to share it with you guys because I like to share new things as I'm working on them. It's called Non-Existent Country. So I'll start with two quotes. Your nostalgia has created a non-existent country, from George Safaris, and you're not supposed to take someone else's nostalgia, from Xander Phillips. I ate the cartilage of the animal because my mother loved the crunch of it. I can't remember when I stopped wanting the texture of something breaking between my teeth, or when I realized war was at the door of every dissident, radio waves punctuating the air. When you are young, every desecration is forgivable. Even if you could live in a world other than this one, would you? We belonged to it once, brave and sun-swept, braids tangling from the edge of the boat, the careening water, a smudge of accidental happiness that ends at the shore, stateless. We drip our hands into the sea, blanch our fingertips. You can cleanse the body with dust if there is no water. Can you be homesick for other lives without wanting to live forever? I miss the old world where the dead come to you only in dreams.
That was beautiful. Thank you so, so much, Mariam. Those essentially rich poems really took my breath away. Still trying to catch my breath. Okay, our next reader, joining us live from Bologna, Italy, is Chris Campanioni. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you. Such a pleasure to be here with you guys tonight. I'm going to start with one of the poems in the new Rhino. And I think the only thing you need to know is that I happened to be writing it when I was in Rome, and now I'm in Bologna. So there's some sort of Italian thing happening. And it's called Every Mistranslation Revealed. Push here and push here. If my body gave out, would you receive me? If my body gave and was forgiven, if you received me, and would I be given back my body? If the live vest was my actual skin, if I was asked on either side, push here and push here, on either side to retrieve my vest, if I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed to retrieve this, if the skin was object, there would be a subject. If the skin was placed on me, if being placed, if place and the duration, if the Ryanair flight from Rome bore a tracking device, and what winged sleeve unfurled to make me want to return home, if circular migration and the interim, if every mistranslation revealed something other than original intention, if origin and the compartment above my head, if dead or not dead, if abduction and abduction and abduction, if to lead away, carry off, remove, entice, if to borrow from medieval Latin, if to draw out or be drawn by, if to drown in the original. What does it mean to fall to the ground and keep falling? If my whole 20s weren't a slow falling series of emails to myself, and if I knew the meaning of genocide to be more than the annihilation of a people, but a place, if the muslin wasn't purple, but it is, if the internet wasn't so often disrupted, if the blackout, if the night and before the night, the darkness, if 188 times in 2018, if authorities, if internet and service providers held at gunpoint and forced to switch me off, if they clenched at the sight of metal, the sound of metal, if they clenched at the sight of me, if the gun points and the collective clenching, if the first 151 days of 2019 and the 150 incidences of mass shootings, if the difference between an incident and an occasion and what can only be called tragedy, if the lowest common denominator is the need to exist, if political transformation first went through the body, if I clenched before you and after and after and after and after, if the deeper ditch was used to let the blood of the dead, and it was, if I couldn't still smell the blood when I descended, if I couldn't think past the centuries between us, if I couldn't think, while I descended. If I became myself by submitting to the repetition, if a live vest was placed upon me, if I were strapped and watching and your calm command, if I were an answering machine, I would always answer. If I were an answering machine, I would answer for the country which made me and which houses my machinery. If I didn't have a house, if I couldn't bear the sight of home, if the mountains, the mountains, the mountains, the more we feel closer, the more we feel alive. If my tendency wasn't to picture everything in words, if I weren't writing or revising this as I tread a body of water, if the water didn't carry so many bodies and my tendency to place them in a picture, if the day wasn't sunny, if the sun wasn't so low, if I wore clothes, you could smell me on them. If I were still in Rome, I would never be not sated. If Rome was not so dirty, if Rome was wasteful, and it is, if the liquid streaming on every corner, if the face held up to the opening, if I opened, my image always asked me the same question. And I will end with similarly a work in progress. Thank you guys. And I actually wrote this on my current trip, so we'll see. Maybe I'll submit it to Rhino 2023. In the mirror, I glide my nerves for evidence of conduction. Today, all the scholars say haptic. Everything is haptic. Sous l'épave, la plage. The sky after rain, my discharge after sex, Keanu Reeves' voice in a French dub, fromage du Pays Basque, known to make each ass cheek sweat. My vintage acrylic shirt, a non-masculine blue. Your bobbing head if I ask my face to duck into the real urge of the pull-out divan. Recollect, beneath the paving stones, the beach, behind the pizzeria, a Parisian speakeasy. I only eat hard cheese as password and premonition, blister below my lip from trying too hard. All these years, mispronouncing my favorite book by Balzac and other revelations provoked by Stefan, my crepe master, seldom told I tip well. Grateful for my one and only consenting avocado. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That was an amazing reading. I love how you pull the ordinary and the extraordinary into the body and make me feel it as well. Our next reader is Erin Caycedo-Kimura. Erin is joining us from Connecticut, and we are extremely happy to have him here. Check out his bio. Erin, thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Jan. And thank you, everyone, for who came out today to hear us read. I'm very happy to be here, very excited to be in Rhino 2022. I'm going to read two poems to you today that both of them are related to my musical past. I started out as a musician, majored in music, did my undergrad and first round of grad work as in music performance. And the first poem, it's not so much about music performance, but it's about something I saw when I was a student at the conservatory in San Francisco. And this poem is the one that appears in Rhino 2022. It's a short prose poem, and it's entitled Scene, and that's S-E-E-N. Scene. Almost daily, a young woman wanders off the street into the conservatory, walks straight down the main hallway to the women's restroom. She wears the same pea green sweater and dusty jeans, carries the same stuffed lavender backpack. Stringy blonde hair shades her eyes always dull and tacit. Maybe a student once, drawn to the familiar sounds of pianos, violins, and sopranos. As she passes the photo portrait of Rudolf Nureyev, she pretends to forget it's there. Then, as if he's called her name, Trish, Sasha, Leah, she startles, turns to him. She kisses her fingertips, touches them to the glass. And my second poem, I was a symphonic percussionist. That was my major. And my second poem is about playing one of the percussion instruments. It's about playing the triangle, which is definitely not one of the most glamorous instruments in the world. And in this poem, I mention an Alan Abel, which is a specific type of triangle named after the manufacturer, who was a longtime percussionist with the Philadelphia Orchestra. I also mention a number 3 stessel, which is a particular type of beater. It's a long, thin rod with a weighted cylinder at the end. And this poem is entitled Triangling. I unclip my Alan Abel from the music stand. Chrome-plated brass fashioned like a knitting mill spindle bent in 3. I lift it face level with my left, a number 3 stessel in my right. With conductor in view, I breathe out, strike the sweet spot of overtones in the lower corner. 4 sparks, 1 arc, force, and timbre. I say all this to be impressive. Some think the difficulty of playing this instrument must be counting all the rests, but I don't need to. I know the music, I have to. The maestro is swatting flies tonight. The real problem is how to look cool with this preschool noisemaker, especially to the cellist with the slight wave in her long black hair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erin. I played triangle too in preschool, in fact. And although it's not a very glamorous instrument, you certainly made it shine in that poem. So beautiful. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm overwhelmed. Everyone is reading so beautifully today. And now I'm very, very pleased to introduce our next reader, Dot Dannenberg. Dot is a Founders Prize runner-up for her poem, Rodin Said Patience is Also a Form of Action. It was selected by our guest judge, Luisa Igloria. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Dot Dannenberg.
Thanks so much for having me. I've been finding myself creeping back towards poetry lately, especially through the pandemic's most isolating periods. I had a baby right before the world shut down, so most of my work is preoccupied with what I like to think of as beautiful tedium. Parenting does kind of weird things to time in a good year, but for those of us performing this grand experiment in these days, well, it's a thing. So the first poem I'd like to read today is a short one. This one is Domestic Sonnet number 2. Our world is small. The hours lie in rows, depending on your mood, some gold, some gray. We walk around the block, as I suppose we'll do 100 other times these days. We meet a lanky cat beside a tree. A neighbor shuts his trunk and turns our way. His name's Asparagus, he says to me. I'll never hear a better name, I say. You run your chubby palm against the fence. We stop to check a gutter, little brook. I'm tired to the marrow now, but when you spot the moon, I always, always look. I'm honored that this next poem will be in Rhino 22. I'm so excited to be published alongside all of these talented readers today. So this one is Rodin Said Patience is Also a Form of Action. Rodin said patience is also a form of action. And you're like, put it on the calendar. Tasks for today, be patient. Sit on your back patio in the humid September muck, close your eyes, and just wait a goddamned minute. Here you go with your vibe, your mood, your hot tea, a little handful of cashews, a checklist in your notebook with boxes stacked like apartment windows, opening shutters into the waiting. Space, check. Time, check. Silence, check. Every scratch of your pencil propelling the nothingness. Look what all is happening while you're deep in this act of patience. The crepe myrtle sheds its bark. The haze bloodies the sun again. The geese leave and return. Your daughter's hair grows longer. Her questions grow more insistent. The shape of her takes up more and more space in the doorway. What's that? She asks. What's that? A cloud, you say. A riverbed. A hunk of stone. Thank you.
Dot, what a pleasure to hear you read again. It's been too long, and poetry welcomes you back. So we're very glad you're here. Thank you for sharing that with us. Before I introduce our next reader, Angela reminded me I need to go back and mention that Kiyoko Reidy, who was our first reader, was the winner of the first prize in our 2022 Ralph Hamilton Editor's Prize. Mariam Gomaa was the recipient of the second prize in our 2022 Ralph Hamilton Editor's Prize, and I wanted to acknowledge them. And you can check them out and all our other prize winners in the 2022 issue. Now I am very happy to welcome as our next reader, Miguel Barreto Garcia, who is joining us live from Zurich, Switzerland. And we are so happy to have him here with us. Miguel.
Thank you for the opportunity for me to read my poems. So the first poem that I'll be reading will be issued in Rhino 22. And this is Soft Innocence. Soft innocence on the floor, but instead of feet, dust. Where memory is a moth visiting as a ghost, and particles in the room are nimbus and viscous. They could be a body. When I close my eyes, where I open is the mirror behind me, my skin, the room becoming wider with illusion, the expanse, echo, reflection, the wall of blister unpeeled. What I see then, horizon, stratosphere, Pacific, perfect bodies upon perfect bodies surrounding me, residue on me, of me, is me, enveloping me, like skin, my skin, like touch, muscle memory of hands, the coarseness of my grip, the tenderness of a hold. On dry skin, there is barely any left to dig through my fingers, though I am left marked, daggered. I have hands to prove they are my father's. I wear them until my fingernails sharp into talons, scratching the walls of my dermis. There is my heart, as if I was trying to itch my way out of my body, as if I am counting each inch of cell in my prison. But I do love my body, honestly. I watch me account for all that power mapped onto me as a bruise. Then I watch my eyes, palms on my skin, soft loam, breathing in cool feel of touch the way hands used to heal by simply touching. I watch my skin molt in the quiet. It shags into moss. Now sunflower and primrose occupy the bruise. The blister and burn are weaving leaves, petals, a handkerchief in gentle breeze. I wave to myself to say goodbye, that a mirror is a door to a garden. There is a language for boys passed on to generations of boys. Mother is in the kitchen, cooking, and father had a boyhood to live. My skin was still soft innocence. So hold me the way boys hold onto a bed during thunder while father bolts in and belts me. As a boy, my eyes are curious UFOs hovering around clouds and ozone orbiting around a firmament of stars, true stars, not the aftermath of father's fists on my open eyes see a closed door, a dark room, and purple clouds forming weight on my thighs. I can be the sky now. Watch me float into unconscious. The air is vicious on my body. The room blurring. My body is the room, vaporing. Desire. What is desire but a perfect want for the body to be a boy? And dare I say, loved. So the second poem that I'll be reading is kind of like a continuation of this life of this speaker. And this is called Notes on a Nudist Beach in Berlin. The smell of spring on the damp, pale green grass, the musk of male bodies, the lavender scent from newly trimmed pubic hair, breasts left hanging for the public, the forbidden fruit. There are no serpents to tempt our carnal desires, only dicks of various sizes, bellies across various stages of the digestion process, and skin, mostly white. The brown body lying on the grass. I smell like cigarette after sex. I had a baby scent, my fuck buddy told me, my body, a Bildungsroman, cycling around the negative space of a belly button. I circled the pond water with my finger. It was wet. The aftermath of a rainy day is one finger, then two. The monsteras by the window, the monsters in my head. I had to go out of my rent-controlled flat to take my clothes off. I felt so seen among the plants I raised during the pandemic, dirty amongst cutlery and teacups, left naked in the sink, the smell of thick massaman curry, the yellow stain on the kitchen towel. Last night was fun when we cooked together. We ate all our stories up, and we were still hungry after sex in bed. The aluminium foil from a midnight kebab, the youth we so desperately held onto our smiles, the thought of Botox at 35. Techno music lingered in our veins from a dungeon club the week before. We were still talking about our Erasmus days on the beach. Your naked body is non-binary, the multitudes of you contained in singular imperfection. You haven't finished the book you were reading for 2 weeks. We were still naked even though we were already full. The warm Berliner Deutsch rolling out from mouth to mouth. It is always humid after rain. The glistening whiteness congregating on a plot of land is an oasis in the city. But my body is a star. The scar on my left knee, curls on everyone's pubes giggle at every passing breeze. I giggle when you're just here. Everyone who didn't give a fuck know their liver spots are growing. The many rings of a tree, the bodies on the beach. We all pile up as sandcastles one day. Thank you very much for the opportunity for me to read.
You're very welcome. And thank you, Miguel, for sharing your sensory rich and very tender, memorious poems. It was so lovely to hear them in your own voice. Our next reader today is Yuxi Lin, and her poem Self-Portrait as FOB was selected by guest judge Luisa Igloria for the Founders Prize as a runner-up. Let's please give her a warm welcome.
Hi, everyone. I'm so honored to be here today and to read alongside such wonderful poets. So I will start my reading with the poem that's in Rhino. Self-Portrait as FOB. I'm 12 years old and fishing for God in a country where you could let the devil in by sneezing. That's how vulnerable we are, according to the church volunteer Pamela, who teaches me and my parents to say, God bless you, and thereby redeems us. In the dank basement, we learn to pronounce our body parts, rib, knee, scapula, and watch the new language reassemble us. In spring, we learn about Lent and ways to go without. I give up a country, and in the new one, hunger speaks most clearly to the soul. When I say, I don't want to be here, what I really mean is, I don't want this body if I can't have whiteness. I've seen what it does, the mathematical sentences, greater than, less than. The alternative to whiteness is to witness God scaling us, though his knife cannot scrape us clean. I am not white or soft down there, nor will I ever be. Pamela gives us each a boiled egg to paint blue and blush. I hang the bright thing on a nail and pray for it to stay dead. The next poem I'll read is called If Writing is Remembering. If writing is remembering, the trick is to go backwards, then to keep going. Time speeds up. A door shuts and opens. I come home every day. Sounds of laughter flood down my parents' mouths. The sun sinks. My mother lies awake. My father opens his eyes and rolls toward her. Night after night, they climb out of bed and into the same lives. Before they fight, they say, sorry, so am I sorry. On a black and white screen, I lose my heartbeat and shrink to darkness. A sperm tears itself from the egg. She is beautiful. He is skinny. They are a man and woman holding a photo of themselves. In a red hall, my father lets fall my mother's veil. The trumpet stops, then the cymbals. Tongues slide back inside their own mouths. My mother pedals counterclockwise on a yellow bike and unspools her life. They have never made each other cry. He is with another woman. She loves another man. They twine their limbs around other people and break promises. Summer comes, then comes again. The past is perfect and alive. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Someone had commented in the comments, virtual mic drops galore tonight, and I have to agree with that. Everyone's reading has just been so gorgeous. Thank you all for joining us. You're not going to believe it, but I am about to introduce our final speaker, our final reader for the day. again, just thank you, everyone, for sharing your amazing work with us. The next reader that I'm going to be introducing is Karen Llagas, and she was the recipient, or is the recipient, of the first prize for our 2022 Founders Prize, selected by our guest judge, Luisa Ain Gloria. Thank you all for being here, and please welcome Karen Llagas.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. I'm so breathless, like what Angela said earlier. I'm so stunned by how beautiful everybody's work is. Thank you, Rhino, for this space. Thank you, poets, for doing the work you do. I'm going to read the poem that is going to appear in Rhino's issue. Are you bringing fruits, plants, seeds, animals, disease agents, snails, soil? O border agent, buffed and blushing, monsters are portable too. The one Hollywood imported, the one wild and winged and cleaved at the waist. She would travel her tendril tongue across your Stonewall abs to reach the soft liver, her hunger a murder. What is the value of all the articles that will remain in the United States? I must have heard you say particles, which is only partly what we are, since we're also waves reporting back to the moon. Forgive me, I must have been daydreaming of pounded rice sweetened with crab fat. I'm looking at you and thinking fondly of red, necessary agent to other colors. It is 5:40 a.m., we're both hungry, and my advice is bread. Do you know a rosebud that refuses to bloom is called a bullet? How many flowers now spangle our streets, dear agent, because our country is a clenched fist? Step in front of the camera, try not to smile. Oh, but I have more to declare. The second poem I'm going to read was supposed to be something else, but I thought I'm going to read this one instead. It's very new. It was written about 2 weeks ago, and it was written, well, let me tell you a little bit of context. It was written after Roe was overturned on June 25. And I saw some of you here that were there with me in the Valley. And I thought, I actually mostly wrote this for myself, to kind of bringing all the pieces of my life and out in the world that would give me hope and light at this time. So this poem is entitled, When the Heartache is Over, with thanks to Tina Turner and Kate Bush. Oh, but the other thing that you must know is I'm going to make a reference to a Katamari ball, which is an object that is quite fascinating for me. It's in a video game. It's an object in a video game that basically eats the purpose of this ball is to eat everything in the universe, and that's how it wins. So, when the heartache is over, with thanks to Tina Turner and Kate Bush. As in, when poets run the world, and I am not running up that hill, retrieving back my soul from the coyote mouth of my country, when I don't have to ask, Siri, are we at the end? As in a time of fierce, fearless, fabulous opposition against living, repetitive tyrants. Perhaps what they need is a little bit more sleep, a cave of silence, simmering bowls of pozole, the poets say at sentencing. As in the rubber bands of the string theory and the unifying principle of our existence finally reaches the labyrinthine, eroded roads of our hearts, the Katamari ball that has eaten all the thumbtacks of our hatred has enlarged to a star. Are we at the end? And Siri answers, we will do everything in our power to help you, like a trained bodhisattva, small enough to travel in our pockets, to alight our shoulder when we fall down that hill and weep. Thank you so much.
Wow. I'm speechless, but I have to speak. And I just want to thank you. Thank you so much, Karen, for sharing that new poem. It was so timely and so wonderfully executed. And I can't believe it was written 2 weeks ago. Amazing. You're all amazing. Thank you all so much for your generous, electrifying, your new work, your work that's coming out in Rhino. All of you are so just amazing, incredible, stunning. I'm running out of words to describe just how overwhelmed I'm feeling right now. Such a gift to hear all your voices. Well, are we really at the end? Yes, we are, sadly. But before we close off, I'd like to thank everyone that's here today for spending part of your Sunday with us. I know you all are busy, you have places to go and things to do, but you've chosen to spend a few hours with us, a few minutes with us, and it's really, really good to see everyone here. If you like what you heard today, you can read all these poets' fine work, along with many other brilliant poems in our 2022 issue, which is now available for pre-order at the link provided in the chat. I have to mention that the beautiful artwork you will find on the cover is by Chicago artist Rebecca Eve Baruch. And we thank Rebecca for donating this beautiful piece called Wallpaper, that graces the new cover. Again, thank you all for joining us today, and a shout out to the editors who are here, especially my always awesome co-host Jan Bottiglieri, our behind the scenes super organizer. Donna Royer, who did all the behind the scenes running around and roping in of the readers, our lovely editor, Virginia Bell, plus all the members of the class. Yay, Virginia. Anne Hudson, Naoko Fujimoto is here, John McCarthy, Teresa Dieglowitz, Pablo Otavalo. Help me out here, Jan. Did I miss anyone?
You got Anne. Who else? If you're a Rhino editor, there's Liz O'Connell.
Oh, yes, Liz is here. And
you're an editor, just pop on and say hello.
Even if you're a former editor, I think we have some former editors in the house.
We
do.
It was great hearing you all read. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Carol. Hello, Carol.
Carol Eating is here. Yes. How could I forget? Hi, Carol. We'd like to also thank our generous funders, Illinois Arts Council, Poetry Foundation, and the MacArthur Fund at the Driehaus Foundation, and of course, poets and writers. Two important announcements before we close. For all you poets out there, submissions to Rhinos Founders Contest is opening on August 1st. This year's guest judge is Nikki Hurd, so please send us your poems. Guidelines are at rhinopoetry.org. Lastly, if you happen to be in Chicago this September for Printers Row Lit Fest, Rhino will be there. We will have an in-person launch featuring more of our wonderful contributors. There will also be a table at the book fair for Rhino 2022. So please come on by, say hi, meet the editors, and grab a fresh copy of Rhino 2022. Hope to see you there. So again, before I sign off, I invite all of you to unmute yourselves, make some noise, give the biggest round of applause to our wonderful readers today. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, readers.
Blown away. Well done. My heart is full.
Great work.
Great work. Excellent job.